Hello, everybody. It's great to be here back one more time today. My name is Gary Fowler. I'm the CEO, president, founder of GSD, Get You Done Venture Studios, premier AI and quantum venture studio located in the heart of Silicon Valley. I'm a 17-time serial entrepreneur with several unicorns under the belt. I was on the original management team at Click Software, which was sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion, and also Eva.ai, an AI HR tech company that I co-founded with Dr. David Yang. We believe at GSD that intellectual capacity is evenly spread around the world, but opportunities are not. And so today I have an incredible guest, Vikrant Varshney. He's going to be talking about SUCSEED innovation. And let's talk about how he's going from an angel investor to manage a significant growth fund. So with that, Vikrant. Hi, Vikrant. How are you today?
I'm good, Gary. Thank you for hosting me. And good evening, good morning from wherever your viewers and listeners are seeing it.
Yeah, we're over 75 countries actually in terms of broadcast. We get a lot of feedback, so it's great.
Wow.
It's great to have you here. We actually just hit our 1,100,000 views of our show, and we've got 1,400 podcasts now. So we're
Congratulations.
be aggressive with it. Tell us a little about your journey from being an angel investor to manage the growth fund at SUCSEED Innovation. And also, what sparked your interest in venture capital?
Yeah, sure. I was a corporate professional working, with large firms like banking and financial services and IT companies. Worked for about 20 years. In 2015 Christmas, I took a call to move out of corporate, became a corporate jump out. I didn't want to keep doing the same shit, as they call, make shit happen. Right. So my idea was to try something for about 15 years of my professional life left, do something different, and which is where I started to meet with new folks, understand new technology and how the world was changing. India had seen a few revolutions in past. India has gone through green revolution, white revolution, industrial revolution, and India was going through IT revolution and IT services revolution, right? And that's where we saw a lot of economic changes happening in India, and because of which you see, our GDP ranking and Indian economic growth has been quite strong. But we also know everything comes with an expiry date, and after that, the growth starts to flatten out, which is where we were seeing some of these changes with IT, and IT revolutions were also flattening, and life had to evolve to the next big thing, which is where my focus was to discover. I took about 9 months in 2016 to meet with different folks, attend different conferences, for us to then understand that India would go through a change in the product, revolution now, and that product would be made in India but made for the world, and which is where they would also come with emerging technology. In 2016, I didn't really know which technology would be leading technology, but definitely we knew that this would come from deep tech products. So things in artificial intelligence, which now AI and generative AI are taking shape, machine learning, computer vision, deep sciences, and blockchain was also another technology at that time. So I started to, make my way, started to support many founders, started to become advisors both, and then started to invest heavily. So things started to fall in place. Gradually, we had our syndication. Then we had our first fund, which we rolled up with uh, an institution called IIIT Hyderabad, which works very similarly on the lines of UC Berkeley. We supported them to realize that 10 investments that we made, 6 out of them gave us heavy returns in 2.5 years. So we were blown away by the performance, and we said, okay, this is a good validation. And that's where our formal fund started, SUCSEED Innovation, which is the second formal fund.
And how big is the fund, Vikrant? How big? What's the size of the fund?
So that was a $40 million fund, but it was an INR denomination, right? So in Indian currency, it's about 300 crore. And our idea was to invest in early stage companies where they're not cool and sexy, and they're looking for investors, and they don't necessarily find many takers. Once they become cool, then obviously there are many funds which starts to chase them.
Yeah, so no, those are the kind of companies we're looking in GSD to curate. We look for companies that have the potential from IIT or IIM. I think you went to Indian School of Business, right? And IMI. And so take those companies and really curate them and help them, because they're kind of like Ferraris in the garage, Vikrant. You know,
Absolutely.
if you keep it in the garage, nobody knows you have it. It's one thing driving around the neighborhood, but the most important thing is winning Formula One, right? And
Absolutely.
so we need the raw clay to turn it into a piece of sculpture that you can put in a Louvre. I agree with you 100%. So let's talk about Succeed Innovation, focused heavily on health tech, med tech, and digital health. Why these sectors, and what excites you most about their potential?
So, as the name would suggest, Gary, we picked up innovation, right? India's innovation. And we wanted to pick up those segments which would cater to large problem statement of Indian masses, right? We are talking about 1.4 billion, population. So all solutions which would be catering to the problem statement of large mass was the focus area. So that's why edtech, fintech, and health tech would come naturally, because all 1.4 billion would require solutions around them. Uh, and these are also basic necessities of an emerging country, right? We all know that India is very strong on fintech layer. A lot of that has come from the infra which government has created. So our fintech potentially is nowadays even far ahead of the developed economies also. But we can't claim for the same for edtech and health tech solutions. We still wanted to pick up those. The fourth layer that we have in our fund is layer of protective layer. So like things in security, regulatory technology, compliance. The fifth layer is layer of entertainment. So everything in gaming, sports, and media entertainment. And the last one is the layer of business. So everything in horizontal SaaS will come. So that's how we chose our investment thesis. But one interesting thing, Gary, that I would like to talk here is, as we said, we invest early, we come with first check, we don't shy away in taking risk. But then we do 1-4-16. So if the company is doing good, we will do 4 times the double down, as they call. And if they are doing good in the follow-on round, we would even go up to 16 times. So large part of our capital is actually available for companies which are performing good, right? So if they are a good company and they are delivering what they said that they would deliver, we won't shy away in giving them bigger checks. And that's how we have been a successful fund, because we invest early and hence we get the early valuation and early rights. And we also put in large checks in companies which are performing well. So we've managed alpha and we've managed beta both, and that does not happen too often.
What criteria do you use when evaluating these startups for investment? You talked about, you see a potential, but they're not curated enough. But can you walk me through what the due diligence process looks like? How do you go down through and say, "Oh, I like Rajiv. It's a very interesting." And do you look at the person or do you look at the technology? And then, what kind of backgrounds are you looking for in those founders?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and we get asked that question quite often. Just to give you a number, Gary, we have evaluated about 7,600 odd startups, life to date as a part of our fund. So that's a large number we are talking about. And from those 7,600 odd startups, we have evaluated about 100 and sorry, we found about 108 startups which were approved by our investment committee. So that's quite a steep funnel, right? As you would understand. We go about 6 rounds of filtering before we reach to an investment decision. Initial couple of rounds are done by our investment analysts, which are purely to identify companies which does not follow our investment thesis or does not meet our size and criteria. But I think the second and third layer is where we start to get our sectoral experts to start review them. Interesting model. We have identified some of our investors, LPs, to be also a curator. We request them 5 hours in a month as a time to give back to ecosystem. So we pick them, 1 hour a weekend, and that hour is getting used for them to evaluate a startup on the domain. So that's for us a technical due diligence, right? Where a domain expert starts to talk to them. And then the next layer is where 5 or 7 of those domain experts together as a committee would come and review that company in detail. 2 rounds of technical due diligence is a strong one. And after that, obviously, again, our investment team and investment committee takes over. And once we invest, obviously, we go through the legal and financial due diligence, which is a part of process. But the fact that they have been evaluated by the industry leaders, people which comes with 25 to 30 years of experience, They've been picked up by pragmatic guys. They've understood the need in the industry. The only thing which could sometime work not in our favor is that their risk appetite might be slightly lesser than the venture capital's risk appetite. So we sit into each of those calls, understand their viewpoint, and where we need to override their decision, we do that. That has worked well for us. We have about 600 odd companies which we have been keeping a watch on regularly. And from that watch list funnel also, we keep bringing some of the companies. So for us, it's almost like running an industrial output of an early stage environment. And that is one of the reasons why even after 68 investments that we have made through the fund, 68 companies and about 85 investments, only 7 of these companies have closed down, right? So for an early stage company, that success ratio is humongous.
Well, I mean, we say there's really, there's three things: operational expertise, access to capital, network, and contacts. And what I've been saying is if you have those three in a resilient team, any company can be pivoted to a unicorn. I mean, I've done it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the situation is it's not easy and it may be a lot of pivoting to get there. But if you got a team, the right kind of team, I mean, I was at Stanford University and I talked to a guy by the name of Stuart Butterfield who founded Slack. And he told me when he founded Slack that it basically his other company, the gaming company, wasn't doing anything. And he had this project management tool, which was Slack, and he used that and started selling that. Sometimes you got to pivot, right? So
So many company on that, Gary, would also for us, because when we are evaluating them first time, they sometime may be raising a first check from us or may not even have a PMF. So we are typically going with a first check on MVP or sometime a very, very early PMF. So they have been pivoting couple of times, and which is why, yes, we look for founders who have either an experience of doing it in past or somebody who's coming with sharp possibility of execution. But in the first round, we can't even assume that they will be good to execute it because they have not yet done it. They have not demonstrated it, which is why when we take our 1-4-16 step approach, then at least we know by the time we are ready to put our second check, we have seen them executing, and that's where we
That,
could
yeah,
take bigger risk on
exactly.
that.
That's, Vikrant, that's, one of the things on the GSD side we've done is when we put them in, we work with the companies for 15 weeks and we get down through, as my friend Guy Kawasaki says, make it enchanting, and you want to go down through and make the company enchanting and exciting.
Yes.
90% of building a unicorn is the story and not the product. People don't realize it. It's, are you charismatic or not? Do people understand you and like you and want to hang around with you or not? And those kind of,
Mhm.
you can't get those going to IAM. You can't get those going to Harvard for an MBA.
Absolutely.
You get those by dealing with people. And so it's interesting. And sometimes we forget. So, you've been involved extensively in ecosystem building. What are some of the key elements to foster a thriving startup ecosystem, especially in emerging markets?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. And we realize that, sometime each of these ecosystem may not be fully evolved. We may not have opportunity for us to go and network with people. So few of these things we might have to do ourselves. Few cities in India are very active, like Bangalore, Bombay, and Delhi. You will see. I operate out of Hyderabad, which obviously was a tier 2 city and is growing and becoming leading city now. So this is where sometime creating ecosystem initiatives are very important. Few solutions where you need to network with regulator, create sandboxing exercises, talk to them about which kind of products and innovation they would approve is equally meaningful. So what we also did is create a fintech forum. We started with Hyderabad Fintech Forum and then went across 7 cities in India, created different cities fintech forum, going and creating an India-wide fintech forums also. And that's where we started to bring institutions, corporates, finance, large companies, fintech founders, regulators, even education and service providers who would work to support ecosystem in fintech. And we started to see benefit of these things coming together, right? And which is where then we said, okay, what are the requirement from policy advocacy? Where would you like changes in policy? And lot many things started to evolve when people started to talk together, right? Sometimes startup founder might be very good in innovation, but his innovation might be proceeding regulation, right? Regulator, if they don't understand the need of it, then they start to say this is illegal, whereas it could actually be illegal, not illegal. right? They may not have created a regulation around it. So sometime we need to work with the regulator and also discuss the pros and cons of having an enabling environment and what could they do to control it. What we additionally saw that government also were quite keen to work with us, and when you work with them, they start to even create policies which are supporting. So we saw early stage companies getting support in government tenders, participating into large infrastructure projects and stuff like that. So many solutions in India, when you will realize, Gary, and your listeners would understand that even in AI space nowadays, we are creating something which is not fancy. We are not creating something which would be used in 2030. We are potentially working on solutions which will get used in 2025 and at max 2026, right? So most of our applications are solving the real problems of today, not building something which appears to be a spacecraft which would solve the problem of future, because emerging markets have their own suite of issues which needs immediate addressal, and sometimes large volume of people can't solve the large volume of people. Automation is needed. So many solutions still require quick application and quick implementation, and which is where interface with government and large capital flow regularly is equally needed. So venture capital, need to play those roles also and eliminate points of friction wherever possible.
So, what common mistakes do you see startups making when pitching to investors, and how can they avoid these pitfalls? You see a lot of them, right? What do they make? What is a mistake that they make, or mistakes that they make that you say, this is just like, this is a rule. Don't make these mistakes. What do you think? Top three.
Yeah, and it's very funny. Most of these are quite common across the location, but I think it's more so in India, where most of the founders are quite geeky, techie, and they would talk about technology rather than business application also. And investors would need to understand the business application, product use cases as compared to only technology. So lot many time it takes much more, for a founder to start talking and create where they are creating an impact, whether it's a business impact or financials. Second thing, which is big, which we've understood, is that there are different platforms where you need to customize your pitch, right? Sometimes you only have a minute, and sometimes you have half an hour. Uh, and many founders have not been able to modulate their pitches as per the need. If you're pitching in an event where you're given only 2 minutes, then you need to know what are the key points and not necessarily a lengthy pitches. So the whole concept of elevator pitches need to be absorbed. Many founders are getting better, but I guess that's still one thing which we have seen in many events where investors are sitting. If they come with long pitches, they're not able to necessarily complete their impactful portion, and which is where they may not get heard. A lot of this is also linked with communication and exposure to these things, and they're getting better. There are obviously many sharp ones, but these are two most common observations that I have, and both are linked with communication.
Can you give me an example of a startup you've recently invested in that you're really excited about, and why?
Interesting one. Yeah, we've invested into a company which is creating a medtech device. I mean, there are many, but I'm just talking about, let's say, two. One of them is creating a medtech device which works on solving the problem of fibroids in women uterus, and that's something which we have seen in all emerging market. Quite a scary thing. About 60% of women suffer in their mid 30s and mid 40s, and they start to bleed regularly, and because of which they become anemic, and they obviously impacts their social life. This particular investment, which is now FDA approved, would use the ultrasound technology, would use the temperature burning to shrink the fibroid, and then obviously with the surgical process remove it, right? So instead of removing the uterus and making the entire process complex, this would work. So this is one of those innovation that we wanted to fund. Considering it's also being FDA approved, it's going to be quite soon in the market. And if things like these could be funded by us in the formative year and could start to make changes, not just it will have a social impact, it would also create a large financial value for investors who would have supported, right? So it serves both the purpose. It is for profit as well as for impact. The second thing that we have created is a sports solution uh, which works in the entertainment space, grassroots level production of covering the matches which happens several kinds of sports, millions of people watching and playing, and not all of them had an opportunity to have coverage of it, as a part of video streaming. So we've created a solution company called SportBot, which would capture it using the mobile phone, and with very, very similar, so easy to use tools, would also create production environment, and that would get streamlined, covered, full stream, as well as having an opportunity for players to get coverage. We have seen that company growing quite rapidly, millions of views coming onto that platform, and several parts of sports getting covered. So again, financial impact as well as enabling these sports to be visible and creating sports as a career option for lot many students, which wasn't very necessarily an option in India. So we are funding those things, which are creating both these things simultaneously. We are not, by the way, an impact fund, but we end up finding some of these opportunity also, which are positively impacting.
Yeah, you
By
should.
the way, Gary, one of our metrics that we use is how many jobs our companies have created. We have about 10,000 families being touched by our investments, and $2 billion worth of valuation created by companies that we have funded. So huge economic and social indicators also at play.
They're those are the kind of companies that we're looking for in GSD. We have companies. I have a doctor from Yale, MedMatch Network. We've got a Danish company called Cerebru, which raised over $12 million. Actually, they got, I think, double now. And that company looks at MRI, X-rays, and dramatically increases the enhancement and helps. We look for those companies. Kaviri, which is a immunotherapy vaccine, started with dogs. He's a double PhD mRNA guy. We need those kind of companies. But here's the thing: is you need to amplify the messages. We use Silicon Valley as a port, Vikrant, for the rest of the world to get those messages out. And sometimes there's so many great companies, they just never get to the right level, not because they're not great technologies, because they don't have a voice to carry the voice out, to talk to the right people. Network and contacts, operational expertise, access to capital. And if you have those three, any company can become a unicorn. It's crazy. So I got another question for you. What disruptive technology you think will have the most significant impact on venture capital landscape over the next 5 years?
See, as of today, obviously, everything in AI space is drastically changing. So, to be honest, if I have to be a bare thread with you, I don't know how landscape is going to look like in 2026 and 27 with technology changing so rapidly. Everybody talks about solutions and SaaS getting replaced by agentic AI, and if you start to talk to people in terms of what all agentic AI solutions they are creating, there is still a lot of fluff, but not necessarily a reality. But yes, these are early days, and a lot of activities would happen in agentic AI space also. So AI and application of AI in different form. Some of it would come from generative AI and other forms of AI. Would be big thing. It is also becoming a point where everything would have a de facto solutions being used with that technology. How it would change the landscape is for all of us to see. We all can obviously talk about it for half an hour, but in a show where that question is only allocated for a couple of minutes, I will only say this is one space for us to watch out for. Many companies are actually pivoting. We have seen fundraise getting diverted with a lot of things are happening around three things, spaceship activities, quantum, as well as AI. First two are heavy capital, requirement projects. Uh, Application of AI still is in the affordable range. If you're putting money behind AI infra, that obviously is again very capital intensive. These are few landscape in technology which will change how things will look in future.
What motivates you personally to invest in startups? And is there a particular legacy or impact you aim to create through your work?
That's a loaded question, Gary, but I'll try to answer. See, and I will go back to the early revolution that I was talking about. India saw huge economic impact, being created, and upliftment of how we were living in this country with our ability, purchasing power, changing with IT companies and IT services company giving employment, and everybody's quality of life started to change. But everybody still felt that they are working for a global company and not necessarily creating product for themselves. Startups have the ability to uplift the value system, uplift their morale and confidence that they have created product themselves, which they could sell into the world, and also give them a chance to create changes that they would be aspiring to drive, right? Indian ecosystem is quite sharp, but have always been in the support services role. This is their chance for them to start playing a more leading opportunity. India has all the ingredients to be successful. If as a venture capitalist we could drive some of it, it's worth bet taking. I've been in global role, lived in several countries and past myself. I know there is sufficient capability. So our second growth fund that we have launched, which is a large fund and would invest in Series A, Series B companies, is going to be global. We would still not take large portion only in India, but would focus on companies in US, Singapore, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Israel also. So we would be quite global in nature and work very closely with people like yourself, Gary, more often in future. Uh, but yes, we still feel emerging market has much more to offer than what they have done in past. And world is obviously looking for more global solution, irrespective of where they're coming from. Uh, and that all of us should do that.
No, that's great. So closing thoughts, Vikrant, and how do people get a hold of you?
They can look up for me in on LinkedIn. I'm quite active. We keep hiring young folks in the market. I'm looking for investors who would work on cross-border investment opportunity. If you have folks listening to you from the Valley area or in the other markets, I'll be more than happy to get on a Zoom call with them and discuss the opportunity that we bring. And if there are similarly institutional investors and family offices who are keen to work with us at an early stage category, we would be more than happy to complement your vision and create a pipeline of solutions which could grow with your support.
Sounds great. Well, thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule. We appreciate it, Vikrant. And thanks to all of you for joining one more time. GSD presents Silicon Valley AI and Tech. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. Stay happy, stay safe, and stay healthy. We will be back to you again soon with another exciting edition. Thanks, everybody, and thanks, Vikrant.
Cheers. Bye.